Hello everyone, welcome to Linda Succulents for you. Today I'm going to do the answers to the Q&A. I invited everyone to send in their questions. I got a handful, not many, so I'm going to attempt to answer those as best I can. And I may do this again down the road. And for those of you that missed out on it this time. But for now, we're going to answer those who did ask questions and are waiting for the answers. And I apologize. I know that I said I was going to try to get this out for you yesterday, but I completely forgot that we had our Christmas with our kids on Sunday. Because of my daughter's surgery, we had to put things off a little bit. So we had a wonderful time yesterday. It was really good to get out of the house and see my family and be around the noise and commotion again. I really miss that. And so all went well. Okay, and as far as my ring light, now I've been getting quite a few comments on that, and I did ask for those comments. But I just want to try and let people know. I'm aware that the light has to be behind the camera. I used to do a lot of picture taking and video taking of people and of family and stuff years ago, so I get that. But the problem I'm having is there's a couple different things going on here. Both my camera and my ring light are on two separate tripods, so it's really difficult to get those next to each other, behind each other, in front of each other. But I did have the light behind the camera lens, so I'm not sure, for those of you that did say I needed to get it behind there, it was behind there. It may not have looked that way, but it was. The other thing is my tripod, as nice as it is, it only goes up to about my chin. I think not even that far, and that's about the average height. Some of them don't go up that high, whereas my camera goes up above my head. So I had to really do some finagling, and I thought the last one that I did, I thought I finally got it right, but maybe not. I'm still open to, suggestions. I think it was Chris who sent me the link to a video, which I did watch, but that was much more complex than what I'm doing here. I don't, first of all, he's got a much bigger light than I do, and he's got better camera equipment than I do, and there were a lot more things that he was talking about that I don't have. So I tried to glean out of it what I could. I know you were trying to be helpful, and I appreciate that, but I don't think that's going to work for me. Really, what I was trying to solicit is what people thought of the lighting when I had the ring light on versus when I didn't. And right now I changed it around again. I actually put the tripod with the camera in front of the ring light, and I lowered the camera. I was afraid to do that because I was afraid you weren't going to get the whole picture here if I'm working on something, but as I'm looking at it, it looks like it's going to be okay. So I'm hoping that this will be the fix here, and if it is, it's better than ever, because both my camera and my light are lower to the ground and not so easy to knock over, which I do frequently bump into that tripod. So I'm always afraid I'm going to knock my camera on the floor, but I think we're going to be okay. So today I have my Jade here because I was going to make cuttings for you. This is not the variegated Jade. This is a different Jade. But I realized, even though I watered it yesterday, it still needs more water. There's a couple leaves on here that have a little wrinkly on them, and I don't want to try to make cuttings from them. And the reason being is they're going to dry up before the roots have a chance to form. So just a word of caution: if you're going to take cuttings from your Jade, do it when the leaves are good and plump, and see how this one is I hope you can see that. It's kind of flat and a little wrinkly. I don't want to cut that like that. So I'm going to give this another good watering, and then maybe tomorrow I'll be able to do an actual video of the cuttings. When I was at my daughter's on Sunday, I noticed her jade cutting that I had given her was getting kind of leggy, and I was trying to show her, you know, how to do it when I was there, but there was so much commotion. I'm quite sure she does not have any recollection of what I said to her, and that's not her fault. So we're gonna try that again. But anyway, this is my other jade, and we're gonna work on that tomorrow. The other thing I wanted to show you was my hubby brought me home. He's always bringing me stuff home. This set that he found. It's an old creamer and sugar. I'm not used to having things right smack in front of me. How nice is that? Okay. And that's the other thing. When I'm doing this, when I don't see you, the object that I'm pointing to in the camera, my tendency is to want to put it closer to you, and actually that makes it go out of view. So that takes some getting used to as well, but I'm getting there. Okay, well anyways, so this is a creamer, and this is the sugar cuber. It's very heavy. It's weighted on the bottom to keep it from tipping over. And this is the spoon. Not cleaned up yet. So he said, those would make nice planters, wouldn't they? I said, yeah. They're kind of small. So I think what I'm going to do is just put a little, maybe a little heartleaf philodendron or something like that in here so that it can hang down and drape down. But anyway, so that's that. Then getting on to the questions. Hopping Frog Hobbies asked me, do you find yourself getting distracted when you tend to other things by your plants and then start tending to them like a child with a dirty face that needs cleaning, always needs looking after? Yes, Hopping Frog, I do. I'm going to say probably almost on a daily basis. I'll go to water one plant and then I'm looking around and it's like, what is going on there now? And then I got to tend to that one. Or I go to dust a table off or something. I went to water my ZZ plant the other day and I noticed that my wax ivy was climbing around the ZZ, and my husband was in the room, but I just was thinking out loud. And I was talking to my wax plant, and I said, hey, what do you think you're doing? Where do you think you're going there? And he looked up at me. He was reading a book, and he said, I'm not going anywhere. What's going on? I had a laugh. I said, no, I'm talking to my plant. Ah, okay. All right. So, yes, I do that. I'm going to give you my plant back here. And because I don't have my face in the camera, I'm new at the Q&A thing, so I'm not sure what to do with my hands other than have you stare at this plant, but we'll get through it. Okay, TLC asked me, sometimes I can't get to the store to get distilled water, so I use my regular spring or drinking water from the bottle now. I'm wondering if that's why my praying hands plant keeps going back and forth. It could be. It very well could be. I know some people do use tap water and regular water on their praying hands and their calatheas, and they claim that they have no issues with it. I am not one of those people. Every time I try to use anything other than distilled water, they act up, my plants. So my answer to that is, yes, it could very well be the problem. And you have to also make sure when you're using distilled water, if I haven't mentioned, I'm sure I did mention this in the past, but it's really important to put nutrients back into your plant. They get some from the soil, but eventually that gets depleted. So as time goes on, you have to make sure you feed your plants. because that's the only way that they're going to get nutrients. If the ones in the soil are used up and you're not getting anything from distilled water, and you won't, because there's nothing in distilled water. There's nothing. It takes everything out. Minerals, nutrients, bacteria, everything. So you're not going to get anything but moisture. So it's important that you feed your plants. And it I guess doesn't necessarily mean that it's the only thing wrong. It could be lighting. It could be that you moved it and it didn't like that. I mean, calatheas are a little fussy that way. But usually once you find a spot for them and they're doing good, they'll flourish. And they grow pretty quickly if they like where they're at. So, all right, next one is from my friend Suzette at Suzette's Garden. She has her own YouTube channel. Beautiful plants, people. If you haven't been to her channel, you really do yourself a favor and go check her out. She's got a lot of really nice plants, good information, a lot of experience. Anyway, she asked me, what are your top 5 houseplants that you own? And then she followed it with, well, actually, that may be a video all on its own. Yes, Susie, I agree, it might be. And, you know, like everybody else, my favorites change from season to season, and sometimes within the season. And I can't really tell you why. Maybe it's because, well, for instance, my kangaroo paw fern, that was down to one tiny little piece of green sticking up out of the soil. So at that time, that was not one of my favorite plants. However, it came back to life. It's full, it's gorgeous, it's huge, and it's growing like crazy. So that is one of my favorites right now. I think probably my most favorite would have to be my philodendron heartleaf. And that's only because she's so beautiful all on her own. There's nothing fancy or pretentious about her. She's got dark green leaves, and very, very rarely do they get pests. I've never seen any on any of mine, and I think I counted them up. I think I have 10 heartleaf philodendrons. And maybe I'll be showing you that in my dining room tour, so I don't want to disconnect that camera right now and go through all of that and make you all dizzy. But yeah, probably the heartleaf philodendron, just because it grows fast. It's beautiful. I love it the way it cascades down. You can also put it up. You can have it in a hanging basket, or you can have it on a pole, whatever. And she's easy. I think the kangaroo paw fern is another one of my favorites. My pilea is definitely at the top of the list. And I'm really liking my baby bunny bellies, the Tradescantia baby bunny bellies. That has turned out to be such a beautiful cascading plant with very little maintenance, very little trouble, no pest problems. It doesn't go crazy if you forget to water it. You might get 1 or 2 brown leaves here and there, but it's very easy care. So I really like her. My wide-leaf Adansonii, that's got to be in the top 5. And she's finally starting to grow. And I think I cover the next one in one of the other questions. Let's go on to the next question. 2 days ago, what is your favorite? This is from Missy Priss. What is your favorite and least favorite? Yep, there it is. Least favorite plant genus. Is there a plant you have owned in the past that you will never buy again? And thanks for always being you. Okay. My favorite and least favorite plant genus. I don't know if I can categorize them by genus, my friend, because there are plants within the genus that I don't like. So I would rather answer this question as my favorite plant, period, and my least favorite plant. As far as groups of plants, I can say my begonias, especially the cane begonias, hands down my favorite. They are the most beautiful. The color, the shapes of the leaves, and they grow so nicely. They're not too fussy. Most of them aren't. And I'm going to be doing a video of that in the near future as well. That the begonia has really, they have really grown on me, and there's a few more that I would like to get. And I'm thinking my least favorite. Okay, is there a plant you have owned in the past you will never buy again? Yes. Ivy. I have purchased ivy over the years quite a few times just because I love them so much, how they look. And every single time I ended up with spider mites. So no, that's not a plant that I want to have in here in my house again. I believe that's the only one that I've ever purchased that I said I would never buy another one. And I've been tempted. I've seen some really nice ones at the garden center here, but I had to just stifle my urges because I knew if I brought it home it was going to be a problem. So, yeah, no, I would never, I hope I will never buy that again. I will do my best to restrain myself from doing that. But I think that's probably the only one that really has given me a hard time. And probably succulents. I'm really just not crazy about succulents. I have a few, and they're doing fine. But a while ago, about 2 years ago, I decided to fill up my window with all the same size clay pots and saucers and all of my succulent and cacti. And I put it in that south window, and I thought this will be perfect because I don't have to get at them too often, so when I have to reach over other plants to get to them, it won't be that big a deal, and they'll have their south light, and well, yeah, that didn't work, and I'm not even remembering exactly why. I think probably didn't get watered enough. Maybe the south light was too strong in the summer. I don't know, but I really, that did not work out. I ended up moving them in different spots in the house. I think I lost one or two of them. One was a copper spoon, and I have since purchased another one of those. But yeah, succulents are not my thing. Okay, and I want to say this is the last question, but there's quite a few questions within this question. This is from Seth Cat, and the first question is, what are the best conditions for the most successful propagation of cuttings in water, like, for example, begonias, question mark. All right, and then she's going on with other questions that are about the same topic. I'm going to touch on these, but I'm not going to dwell on them because I'm going to be doing a whole video on my begonia propagation because I have some that need it badly. And she asks what leaf should we pick, and of course that'll be in the video. What kind of water is suitable? I use distilled water for my cuttings, just because I also use rooting powder, and I also sometimes will use my Peter's Food or Jack's Food synthetic fertilizer, tiny bit, almost nothing, just a tiny bit, if I think it needs it. But usually it's just distilled water, rooting powder, and stick it in there in my south window, and I don't usually have problems with it being, getting roots. It's asking about the light, natural sunlight or LED lights. I've done it with both. Some plants are best under the LEDs, some are best in my south window. And I can't really tell you which ones are which right off the top of my head. Most it doesn't matter, as long as it gets bright light. Should anything be added to the water? I already said, yeah, I would use rooting powder. Although with begonias, they are such fast rooters, you really don't need to. And if you have good faucet water, you might even be able to root yours in faucet water. Many people do. So you want to cut it so that you have at least one node on that stem, because that's where the roots come from. And this is a good time to mention, a lot of people think that the roots come from, well, not a lot of people, but I've heard people say the roots come from the bottom of a cutting, from the where you cut it off. That's not where the roots come from. They come from the nodes, the bumps on your stems here. If you can see that, here and here and here, that's where your roots are going to come from. They don't come from the bottom. You want to cut it on an angle so you can expose as much surface of that stem as possible, so it can soak up the water, it can drink up the water and keep the plant alive while it's rooting. So that would be that. How often should you change the water? I've got some that I'm ashamed to say the water turns green before I get around to changing it. Doesn't seem to harm the plant at all, but that's not optimal, folks. It's best if you can change the water at least once a week, if not every 3 or 4 days. Just because it's better for the plant, but I really don't think it's the most important thing. What amount of days? That depends on the plant. If we're still talking about begonias, I've had begonias rooted in 3-4 days. I've had other ones that have taken weeks, and we're going to talk about that in the begonia propagation. It's going to depend on whether you're propagating from a leaf cutting or a stem cutting. And that's, like I said, we'll go over that then. Do roots normally appear, and how long should they be before removing them to put in the earth? Okay. That is different depending on the plant. I have had plants like the golden pothos where I forgot they were rooting and the roots were 6 inches long, and I stuck them in soil and they were fine. I've had other plants where if the roots got past an inch long, they didn't do well. So for me, it's trial and error or research. If you're thinking about propagating a certain plant, you should do some research on it and find out the best way for that particular plant, because they really are all different, and that's a hard one to answer in a general sense. And I can say, if I had to give you a general answer to that, it would be the sooner the better, because they are different. The water roots are different than the soil roots. And I learned way back in the early 70s, if you take something that's got water roots and you put it in soil, that plant is going to spend its energy trying to acclimate those roots to get the water out of soil, as opposed to it was drinking water constantly prior to that. So the plant does have to get used to that. And I do believe that if you let the roots get too long on some of the plants, they just don't acclimate. So I hope that didn't confuse you more. I know it's a hard one to answer, and it's a hard thing to figure out, but you know, as I always try to tell everyone, everything that I know, which isn't a lot compared to some, I've learned by doing and by trial and error. And all I can say is, don't be afraid. You know, just go for it, because if you're afraid, you're gonna, you know, hurt your plant, or you're gonna kill your plant. It's a plant, and unless it has sentimental meaning, you can always get another one. either from mom or sister or daughter or whoever, friend. It's not the end of the world. Now, if you had said that to me a couple years ago when I almost lost the plant from my dad's wake, I'd be having a different response right now, because that does have a sentimental value to me, as does a couple other plants that I own. But for the most part, you know, you try it. If it works, if you keep a close eye, and I guess that's probably the biggest thing, is to keep a close eye on your plants, because I am guilty of it as well. I have days where I can't be around my plants. I can't get to my plants. I can't look at them. And on those days, I get a little stressed because I don't know what's going on. The best thing you can do is check your plants on a daily basis. And if you do that, I can almost guarantee that you will not, your failure will be at a very, very bare minimum, if at all. Because you're going to get to know what they're supposed to look like, and you're going to get to know when they're trying to tell you something. And that's the key, to know what the plant looks like in its optimal health, and then being able to recognize when it's sick, when it's, and I've said this before, it's like having a child. You know, they might still be running around playing outside, but they come in to get a lunch or grab a toy, and you're looking at their eyes, and it's like, what's going on with you? You don't look right. And then that night they come down with a fever, and you say, I knew it. Well, plants are the same way. They give signs. Most of the time, they will give you signs to be able to recognize that they're in distress and they need something. We don't always know what that something is, but you will figure it out. And if you're really a plant parent, mom or dad, you'll enjoy that part of the process as well, because it's very rewarding to get a plant that's having issues and being able to bring it back to life. And I've done that quite a few times from people, from friends of mine. They wanted to throw it out. It's like, I'm so sick of trying to keep this plant alive, and they give it to me and it grows great, and I never have an issue. So sometimes it's just the environment that they're in, and it's nothing you're doing. So keep that in mind. Okay? All right, I think I've yacked enough here, and I think you guys are probably getting bored staring at the same plant, and I apologize for that. I wish things could be different here, but for now they got to be with what it is. So I appreciate so much you guys all staying with me and hanging there with me. For those of you that are anxious and that are helping to promote my channel, I am up to 933 subscribers. So I have, let's see, what is that, 67 left to go to when I get to my 1,000. And that's going to be a day to celebrate, because we've worked so hard to get there. So thank you all who have subscribed. Thank you so much. And hopefully you'll all have a good week now that all the hullabaloo and everything is over with. I'm sure everybody's looking forward to spring and a new year, and new great things to happen this year. Good things. Okay. That'll do it for me today, and I will be back. Have a good day. Bye now.